Developing news overnight on the nuclear talks with Iran. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with Saudi Arabian King Salman. This occurring as concerns over a nuclear Iran go further than just Israel. Other key U.S. allies are voicing their worries too. WSJ's Yaroslav Trofimov has been traveling the globe and has made a stop in Rome for us. Thanks, thank you for making time for us on your global travel, sir.
Great to be at the show.
So let's go with the update. Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with the King of Saudi Arabia, the newly crowned king, to talk about this. And they just seem just as worried as Israel about a nuclear Iran, don't they?
Exactly. It's not just the King of Saudi Arabia that he's meeting. He's also meeting the foreign ministers of all the six Gulf oil-rich countries, such as the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, and others. And all these countries, they're all Sunni countries, Sunni-governed countries at least, that are really locked in this proxy conflict with Iran on many fronts. In Yemen, where a pro-Iranian Shiite militia seized power just a month ago, but also in Syria, in Lebanon, and in the Gulf itself. Obviously, Iran has long claimed sovereignty over Bahrain, one of the Gulf countries, and Bahrain has a large Shiite majority that did participate in unrest a few years ago, and situation there is seen as a big security problem for the Gulf itself. So
I'm sorry, Yaroslav, I cut you off there, but the big thing here is that we got some big and important allies among the Arab nations in the Middle East. It looks like there's a rift between the U.S. and Israel at the moment. Could there end up being a rift between the U.S. and the Arab allies too?
Most definitely. These Arab allies, in the words of one of the leading analysts in UAE, feel they're being thrown under the bus because they are right now locked in this conflict with Iran, and they fear that any easing of sanctions, any U.S. overture to Iran would really help their enemy, just as that enemy is advancing throughout the region.
Now, if we go back to the 1980s, there was a very long and bloody war of attrition between Iraq and Iran. Is the worry that we see a return to that, or something even worse, with Iran just sort of pushing westward?
Well, we already have that push. Iraq today, the Iraqi government is a very close ally of Iran. Iranian troops and pro-Iranian militias and advisors are fighting right now in Iraq against Islamic State. In Syria, Iran and the pro-Iranian Hezbollah militias are the leading forces behind the Assad regime. They're also fighting the Syrian rebels who are backed and financed and funded by the Saudis and the other Gulf states. And obviously in Yemen, you have the same situation of the pro-Iranian forces actually taking over the capital. So if you view it from Riyadh, you're really being encircled by Iran and its proxies. So
is there anything, and very quickly on this, is there anything John Kerry can do to ease concerns across the region with our allies? We've got about 15 seconds.
It's very hard. Their concerns go to the heart of the rapprochement with Iran. They don't want to see it happen.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Yaroslav Trofimov joining us from Rome. We appreciate your time, sir.